I recently played Hollow Knight for the first time, and I have to say I was very impressed. Its Metroidvania gameplay, hand-drawn visuals, and steep difficulty made it quite a challenge during my first playthrough. Now admittedly, I'm a little late to the party on this one, but when I heard that a direct sequel may be released this year, I thought I'd create a list of tips for complete noobs who are thinking of taking this immense title on for themselves. Let's get started. Coming in at number 10 is understand how benches work. So benches act as resting points during gameplay and are situated throughout Hallownest at various locations. Similar to how bonfires work in the Souls games, benches allow you to regenerate your health and automatically save your playthrough when seated. They also update your map automatically, provided you've purchased the area's map from Cornifer, and allow you to change your equipped charms, which we'll get to a little bit later in this video. Now admittedly, this tip is pretty self-explanatory, but I'll eat humble pie on this one and say that it took me at least a dozen hours to realize that I can equip charms while seated at benches. Save early and save often. Don't be a hero during your first playthrough because really, you don't have anything to prove to anyone. Coming in at number 9 is find and buy maps from Cornifer as soon as possible. Now the map system in Hollow Knight isn't as straightforward as you might expect. It's not a simple case of once you enter a new area, it appears on your map. Maps must be first purchased by Cornifer the Cartographer, an NPC character that appears throughout Hallownest in one location for every region. Now once the map is purchased, sitting on a bench will update all areas you've previously visited in that section of your map, slowly but surely uncovering more areas of Hallownest, one section at a time. Now this will take some getting used to for new players starting out with Hollow Knight, yours truly included, and trust me, the last thing you want to do is to be exploring a new area that's completely blacked out on your map. While the location of Cornifer in each region can't be bought at any vendor, he can be heard by his trademark humming when you get close. If you hear that, he's usually not too far in that section you're in. Once the map is purchased, simply sit on a bench and the previous areas you visited will appear. Coming in at number 8 is check everywhere for hidden areas. Hollow Knight is very much a game of secrets, and uncovering those many secrets is a big part of the fun. When splunking through the world's many chasms and corridors, be sure to check thoroughly for hidden areas. If a wall, ground, or ceiling area looks different or cracked in some way, it's more than likely that it can be destroyed to uncover hidden rewards. Also, look for surfaces that sound different when walked on or hit. While most breakable walls and ceilings can be taken down with a few hits, unstable floors will likely need the Mothwing Cloak to be able to break. And these rewards can range from rancid eggs, shards, charms, grubbers, and relics that can be exchanged for Geo. Similarly, there are many hidden shortcuts throughout Hallownest that can be discovered in the same way. New shortcuts can make traversing the world a hell of a lot easier, or even uncover whole new areas to explore. Coming in at number 7 is equip the wayward compass charm early. When you first start playing Hollow Knight, one of the things you'll notice that's a bit odd is the fact that you'll be able to bring up a map but have no idea where your character is at any given time. Now when I first started playing the game, I just thought this was the natural order of things. In fact, I probably played through huge swaths of the game without realizing that this simply isn't the case. It wasn't until I consulted the Hollow Knight wiki online that I found out that you have to first equip the wayward compass charm for your icon to appear on the map. Now this might sound silly, but if you're a complete noob playing Hollow Knight, this is not readily apparent when you first boot up the game. The wayward compass charm is easily enough to obtain. It can be purchased from Iselda in Dirthmout for 220 Geo after the first encounter with Cornifer the Cartographer. Coming in at number 6 is understand how dying works. If you've ever played any of the Souls games in the past, then you're already quite familiar with how dying works. If you die in Hollow Knight, which if you're anything like me will happen a lot, you'll lose all your accumulated Geo, the in-game currency, and any soul in your soul vessel, essentially the energy that allows you to recharge your health. Now fear not, because Hollow Knight is nothing if not fair. If you go to the location of where you died, you'll encounter a shade of your previous self. Strike it 3 times and you will regain your lost Geo and your soul vessel will be restored to normal. Though if you die a second time before killing your shade, you'll permanently lose that Geo. Now 2 tips that I can give you right off the bat is to try and avoid especially complicated areas early on in the game. Deep Nest and the Royal Waterways will be especially tricky. If you die in a place that's essentially hard to get to, it's likely you'll die a second time just trying to get back there, especially with a reduced soul vessel. Now there is a shortcut around this, however. Throughout your playthrough, you'll come across an item known as the Rancid Egg. Now at first you'll think this is a throwaway collectible or something to sell for more Geo. However, if you return to Dirtmouth at the far right of the area, you'll find the Confessor Gigi, who will summon your Shade Self in exchange for a Rancid Egg. Now he does require a simple key before becoming accessible, but just having access to that character will save you a lot of grief in the long run, especially if you've died in an inconvenient place with a hefty lot of Geo. Coming in at number 5 is Don't Bother Hoarding Geo. I'll be the first to admit that I was terrible on my first playthrough of Hollow Knight, and with masks in limited supply and virtually no special moves to speak of, you're going to die a lot, especially against some of the tougher bosses. Heck, even the more tame bosses will give you a run for your Geo. Don't bother hoarding Geo if you're not good at the game. If you have several hundred Geo at your disposal, spend them on anything as quickly as possible, whether that means buying new charms, notches, mask shards, or some other reward that will give you a leg up during gameplay, because if you die, it's unlikely you'll get it back. Now there are two ways to gain Geo quickly, other than killing bosses. The first is by freeing Grubbles in and around Hallownest, and returning them to the Grub Father in the Forgotten Crossroads. Grubbles are the caged worms in and around Hallownest and are usually hidden away from view or purposely difficult to reach. While the Grub Father will reward you with hordes of Geo, he's also been known to give you shards and charms as well. The second way to gain Geo fast is by selling relics, which usually come in the form of Hallownest seals and king idols. These can be sold to a vendor in the City of Tears for quite a hefty amount. King Idols will net you around 800 Geo, while Hallownest Seals will fetch you 450 Geo apiece. Coming in at number 4 is use map markers for inaccessible areas and other secrets. Hallownest is a big, sprawling place, and you don't realize just how big it is until you physically uncover one area at a time. Along the way, you're more than likely to come across areas that are inaccessible because you don't have a particular skill or a boss you haven't yet defeated. More than likely, you're going to put off that area and come back to it later, only to realize you've completely forgotten where that particular boss, reward, or inaccessible area was in the first place. Fortunately, there's a nifty little item that can be purchased that will save you a lot of hassle. These come in the form of colored markers, which can be bought at Iselda's in Dirtmouth for very little cost. Each item comes in a set of 6 markers, gold, blue, and red ones respectively, and can be placed anywhere on your map at any time when the game is paused. Additionally, you can also purchase the locations of all the benches, stags, vendors, warriors' graves, and other key locations on your map from Iselda as well, if you have the necessary Geo. Coming in at number 3 is find the Gathering Swarm Charm early. Now the Gathering Swarm Charm is in my opinion one of the most important charms in Hollow Knight, but not for the reasons you might expect. When enemies are killed, they explode into tiny metallic shards known as Geo, Hollow Knight's in-game currency. What the Gathering Swarm Charm does is, once an enemy is killed, it sends out little flying bugs to gather all of the fallen Geo and bring it back to you. Now this is significant for a number of reasons. First, it prevents you from having to manually collect the Geo, which could open you up to damage from nearby enemies or hazards. Second, it saves time from having to manually collect the fallen Geo. Third, you can expect more collected Geo during gameplay overall than without it equipped. Now this particular charm can be bought from Sly in Dirtmouth for 300 Geo, so be sure to equip it early on during your run. Coming in at number 2 is experiment with charm combinations. One of the most innovative game mechanics in Hollow Knight is the charm system. Charms are items that, when equipped, give you special skills and abilities to help you in your journey. Now I'm not going to go through what each charm does, as there are 45 charms in all to collect, but one thing I didn't discover until far off into my gameplay was that certain charms can be equipped in tandem to form even more powerful abilities. A personal favorite of mine was combining the Spore Shroom charm with the Defender's Crest charm, which allowed me to emit an even larger toxic cloud when recharging my health. Another example is combining the Deep Focus and the Quick Focus charms together that will allow you to charge 2 masks of health on only 1 recharge. And combining Baldur's Shell with Thorns of Agony not only gives you a protective shield from an incoming attack, but allows you to lash out at enemies when hit. Another thing to remember is that charms can only be swapped out at benches. They're also limited to the number of notches you have available. The best advice I can give is to purchase several notch slots early on, and don't be afraid to experiment with different combinations, even if you only have a handful of them currently available. And coming in at number 1 is kind of a combination of two, and that is don't get flustered and get good with moves. Now, it may sound trite, but Hollow Knight is just as much a game of patience as it is about strategy. It's very easy to get flustered trying to defeat a boss or area that far exceeds your current abilities. If you find yourself caught up in this scenario, your best option is to backtrack and try your hands at a new area. Hopefully, you'll return to that once difficult area with new upgrades and more masks to make your second go a heck of a lot easier. The truth is, if you're playing Hollow Knight and not having fun, then you're only doing yourself a disservice. On the other end of the coin, the only other advice I can give is to get good with the controls and attack combinations. Many areas in Hallownest are purposefully complicated with hazards and enemies, some challenging that yield impressive rewards at the other end. Knowing which buttons complete which moves might sound simple, but becomes a great piece of advice with the more moves and charms you discover throughout your playthrough, especially if you have to react quickly, say during a boss fight or along particularly challenging terrain. Now granted, the more moves you acquire, the easier these areas become, but memorizing and practicing your moveset will definitely help pay off in the long run during your playthrough. Thank you for watching the top 10 tips for playing Hollow Knight. As always, thanks for watching and feel free to like, subscribe, and comment on this video.